Welcome back to Midnight Whispers. Don't forget to subscribe, turn off the lights, and let's step into something you can't unhear. When I was a kid, I used to spend every summer in my grandparents' house at the edge of a quiet little town where the nights felt longer and the silence somehow heavier. And that's where I met Emma, a girl about my age who lived right across the narrow dirt road. She had messy blonde hair that always looked sunburnt, and a laugh that echoed like it didn't belong in that place. We used to play together every single day, chasing butterflies, drawing on the porch steps with chalk, making mud pies, and pretending we were explorers, uncovering some ancient secret buried under the willow tree in the backyard. And for years, she was my best friend, my only friend in that small, forgotten corner of the world, the one who knew all my secrets, the one who held my hand when the thunder got too loud. And every night before I went home, she'd wave at me from her porch and shout, "See you tomorrow," like it was a promise carved in time. But as I grew older, I started to notice strange things about Emma, things that didn't make sense, like how she never came into my house, how my mom always looked confused when I told her Emma was waiting for me outside, and how every photo I took, every single one, never showed her standing next to me, even though I swore she was right there. And when I once asked my grandmother about the family that lived across the road, she frowned and said that house had been empty for years, boarded up since before I was born. But I didn't believe her. I couldn't, because Emma W. was real. I could hear her voice. I could feel her cold fingers. I could smell the strawberry shampoo she always said she borrowed from her mom. And even though part of me wanted to question it, I didn't, because the thought of being alone in that place terrified me more than anything else. One evening, when the sunset turned everything gold and red, Emma asked me to follow her to the woods behind her house, a place I had never gone before because my grandparents said it was dangerous, that people got lost there. But she promised she knew the way. She said she wanted to show me something she said would explain everything. And her voice was serious in a way I had never heard before. So I followed. And as we walked deeper into the woods, I remember the air getting colder, the light fading faster than it should have, and the trees seemed to close in like they were listening. And when we stopped, she pointed toward an old stone well covered in moss and broken vines, and she whispered, "That's where I came from." I laughed at first, thinking she was joking, but she looked so sad, her blue eyes wet and empty. And she told me she didn't remember much, just that one night she heard her mother crying. Then she fell asleep near the woods, and when she woke up, no one was there, and she'd been waiting ever since, waiting for someone who could see her, someone who could hear her. And she said that someone was me, that I was the only one who could. And before I could even ask what she meant, I heard my grandmother's voice echoing through the trees, calling my name, panicked, angry, scared. And when I turned around to she was gone, like she had melted into the shadows between the branches. I ran home crying, telling my grandmother that Emma disappeared, that she'd been right there. But my grandmother grabbed my face and shouted, "Who's Emma?" And I swear, in that moment, I thought she was the one who'd gone crazy. Because how could she forget someone I spent every single day with for years? That night, I couldn't sleep. My room felt colder than usual. And outside, the wind made the old windows rattle like they were whispering something I wasn't supposed to hear. And I remember looking at the photo frame on my nightstand, a picture I had taken just a few days before of me and Emma sitting on the porch steps. But when I picked it up, the space next to me was empty, just me smiling at nothing. My hand floating in midair like it had been resting on invisible shoulders. And I felt sick, like something was wrong with me. So the next morning, I went back to the house across the road to prove it to myself. But when I got there, the doors were sealed shut with heavy planks, the windows covered with dust and spider webs, and there were no signs of life, no toys, no clothes, no laughter, nothing. And I remember knocking, calling her name again and again until my throat hurt. But there was no answer. And as I was about to leave, I noticed something carved into the wooden post of the porch. 3 little letters. E.M. I ran my fingers over it, feeling the rough edges. And that's when I heard her laugh, faint but clear, coming from somewhere behind me. I turned, but the road was empty, the world still, and I couldn't tell if the sound came from outside or inside my head. And from that day on, I stopped talking about her, stopped mentioning her name, but the memories never left me. They were too detailed, too real. Every moment burned into my mind like a film I couldn't stop replaying. And even years later, I could still picture her face perfectly. When I was 17, I went back to that town after my grandmother passed away, and everything looked smaller, quieter, older. The house across the road was still there, still abandoned. But curiosity got the best of me. So one evening I decided to break in. I pried open one of the wooden planks and stepped inside, and the air smelled of dust and decay, like time itself had been trapped inside those walls. And as I walked through the living room, I saw faint outlines on the wallpaper, shapes where picture frames once hung, and one of them, faint but visible, was a photo of 2 girls standing side by side. One of them looked just like me, but the other girl's face had been scratched out, and under it, written in faded pencil, were the words, "Best friends forever." I froze, my breath catching in my chest, because I had never been in that house before. Yet, every corner felt familiar. Every creak in the floorboards sounded like footsteps I already knew. And when I reached the back door, I saw something that made my blood run cold on the kitchen wall. Scratched deep into the paint were the same 3 letters, E.M.A., the same ones carved on the porch, the same name I hadn't spoken in years. And suddenly, I heard that same laugh again. Only this time it wasn't faint. It was right behind me, close enough to make my hair stand on end. I turned around slowly, and for a split second, I saw her standing there in the hallway, smiling the same way she used to when we were kids. Only her eyes looked hollow, her skin pale, like she hadn't aged a single day. I blinked, and she was gone, and I ran out of that house so fast I didn't stop until I reached the main road. After that night, I couldn't shake the feeling that she was following me, that every reflection, every shadow in my room had her silhouette in it. I started dreaming about her, the same dream over and over. She'd stand at the edge of my bed, staring at me with that same sad smile, whispering something I couldn't make out. And when I woke up, my pillow would be damp, not with sweat, but with the faint smell of strawberry shampoo, the same one she used to wear. I went to therapy, tried to convince myself it was childhood trauma, imaginary friendship, grief, or guilt. Something my mind had created to fill the loneliness. But no amount of explanation made the memories fade, because I remembered too much. Details no one could invent, the sound of her laughter bouncing off the walls, the way her small hands trembled when she was cold, the scar on her right wrist shaped like a tiny crescent. And sometimes, when I walk past mirrors, I swear I see her reflection next to mine, smiling before fading away, like she's waiting for me to remember something I've forgotten, something important. And maybe that's why I'm telling this now, because I don't know what's real anymore, or if she was ever real to begin with. But I know this: whatever she was, whoever she was, she's still here. Last month, I went through my grandmother's old things, and inside one of her journals, I found a newspaper clipping dated 25 years before I was born. It talked about a little girl named Emma who went missing near that same house. Her body was never found, and her last known friend was another girl around the same age, who claimed Emma had vanished right in front of her eyes while playing near the woods. And that girl's name was the same as mine. I froze, reading my own name printed in a story decades older than I could exist in, my hands shaking, my mind spinning. And suddenly, everything made sense and didn't at the same time. Maybe Emma was never just a friend. Maybe she was a memory, or a part of me that got lost and came back in another form. Maybe she's the reason I could never forget. And maybe I never will, because every time I close my eyes, I still see her standing under that willow tree, smiling, waiting for me to come play again. And sometimes, when the nights are quiet enough, I still hear her voice faintly saying, "See you tomorrow," like a promise that time could never erase. And I can't tell if that comforts me or terrifies me. But one thing is certain: she's not gone. Not from me, not from this story, not from the world that somehow remembers what never existed.